So until now, we have been discussing about impairment, and every time impairment is being discussed, we are talking about writing down the value of the asset. Writing down or reducing the value of the asset is what we have been discussing. Now we'll bring up the logic of reversal of impairment. What do you mean by reversal of impairment? Does it mean increase in value of the asset? Then it should be, it should be exactly similar to revaluation. No. Revaluation upwards is possible even when the asset was not downward revalued earlier. But a reversal of impairment is only possible if the asset was impaired earlier. In the previous financial statements or in the preceding financial years, if an asset was impaired, then you can check for reversal of impairment only for such assets. Now, why does this concept of reversal actually occur? The reversal concept actually occurs because when you test or when you try to measure the amount of recoverable amount, then you try to identify it as higher of value in use or net selling price. Tell me, what is value in use? Present value of estimated cash flows derived from continuing use of the asset plus the cash flow estimated to be derived from the sale of the asset or disposal of the asset at the end of its useful life. What is net selling price? Estimated fair value from sale of asset minus estimated cost to sell. Yes. Both your value in use and your net selling price were based on fundamentally estimates. When these estimates get revised, when there is a revision of these estimates, you could possibly come across a situation where there could be a situation where the recoverable amount exceeds the carrying value. In such cases, there can be a reversal of impairment. Remember, when I say these words, please remember very carefully. When I reverse impairment, the reversal of impairment should increase the carrying value of the asset. Impairment reduce the carrying value of the asset. Reversal of impairment can increase the carrying value of the asset. But such increase in carrying value of the asset should be limited to the carrying value of the asset if impairment loss was not recognized earlier. Again, I'll repeat. The reversal of impairment loss should reverse or should increase the carrying value of the asset. Such carrying value of the asset should not exceed, should be limited to, should not exceed the carrying value of the asset if impairment loss was not recognized earlier. Some statement I made. I don't know how much logic you understood from the statement, but I'll help you understand with the help of a certain examples out there. Okay, so let's put up a heading of reversal of impairment loss. Notes. Reversal of impairment loss. First statement which I have to make. Such reversal is possible only when the asset was impaired earlier. Reversal of impairment. Name itself is suggesting, right? Is only possible if the asset was impaired earlier. If the asset was impaired earlier, then there can be a reversal of impairment loss. Whenever you talk about reversal of impairment loss, it comes across with the logic that the recoverable amount in such cases exceed the carrying value of asset. And such increase in recoverable amount should be resultant from a change in the estimate. Such increase in recoverable amount is resulting from a change in estimate What change in estimate am I talking about? Number one, could be a change in value in use if I'm talking about. Estimated cash flows derived from continuing use of the asset. Or the estimated cash flows from disposal of asset at the end of its useful life. It could be arising from disposal of asset at the end of useful life. These are possibly two changes in cash flows. There can also be change in the discount rate. There can also be a change in the discount rate which is applied. In either of these three circumstances, there could be a change in the amount of value in use. Similarly, there could be an increase in resulting or recoverable amount due to change in accounting estimates in determination of net selling price. It can arise from the change in fair value of the asset, or could also arise from a change in cost of disposal. So these accounting estimates can change. Such change might result in a recoverable amount increasing. If it increases in such a way that it exceeds the carrying value of the asset, then you can always say that there is a reversal of impairment loss for such assets which were impaired earlier. Clear? These are estimates which I am talking about. Please be very clear on what type of estimates are we talking about. Clear? Moving ahead. Increase in value in use arising due to lapse of time should not be considered as reversal of impairment loss. What is this concept of increase in value in use arising due to lapse of time. Let's say, for example, the asset derived very little cash flows at the beginning. The cash flows derived from the use of the asset at the beginning are very little. Significant amount of cash flows are being derived only towards the later part or later part of the useful life of the asset. But if you apply discount rate, what will happen? Initial cash flows will have higher weightage, subsequent cash flows will have lower weightage. So your initial cash flows, which have a higher weightage, where the present value factor is much higher, the value in the estimated cash flows are very small. But your subsequent cash flows after 10 years probably are significant. So therefore, since you applied a lower PV factor for those years, you found that the value in use is significantly less at the time of testing for impairment. 10 years has passed by. Now those cash flows, which you are estimating to significantly increase after 10 years, have come closer now. So higher present value factor is applied there. In such cases, the value in use definitely increases. But such increase in value in use should not be considered for reversal of impairment loss. Therefore, a reversal should only arise from a change in accounting estimate. It should only arise from change in estimate. It can not arise, not considered from lapse of time. Lapse of time should not be considered. Change in estimate should be considered as reversal. What am I saying now? When your recoverable amount is greater than the carrying value, you have to claim that there is a reversal of impairment. A reversal of impairment should increase the carrying value of asset. Should increase the carrying value of asset. Such increase increased carrying value should be limited to the carrying value of asset if impairment was not recognized earlier. Impairment was not recognized earlier. Read this sentence very carefully. This happens to be one of the most important sentences under reversal of impairment. A reversal of impairment shall increase the carrying value of asset. Correct. Such increase in carrying value or such increased carrying value of the asset should be limited to the carrying value of the asset if such impairment was not recognized earlier. Shall I put it like this? I'll write the same sentence in a different manner. Reversal of impairment is equal to lower of reversal of impairment is equal to, and this I'm writing the same above paragraph in a different manner, is equal to lower of part A. Recoverable amount minus carrying value, because your recoverable amount is greater than carrying value now. Or part B, carrying value of asset if impairment was not recognized earlier minus reduced by carrying value of asset after impairment WDV after impairment. The same sentence what I've written earlier, I'm just writing it in a different way, that's it. The increase in carrying value of the asset resultant from reversal of impairment should be in such a way that the carrying value after the reversal, the carrying value of the asset after the reversal should not exceed the carrying value of the asset if such impairment was not recognized earlier. Still not satisfied. Still I'm not happy with the amount of explanation that we got in this aspect. When we are not happy with the explanation, always look at examples. Example will give you a better basis. Example. In 2019, when the carrying value of asset was, let's say, rupee 1 lakh. The depreciation per annum was, let's say, 10,000. So, as a percentage on carrying value, I'm taking it as 10%. Okay, just some basis I'm taking. That's it. Don't find logics in my values. Okay, I'm just giving you an example. Let's say on that day, the recoverable amount of this asset was only rupee 80,000. Therefore, I recognize an impairment of rupee 20,000. Of rupees 20,000. Therefore, now my revised depreciation per annum was only 8,000 because there is a reduction in the value of the asset over its estimated useful life. Therefore, it is 8,000. Now, coming down to 2021. Let's say now the recoverable amount has increased. The recoverable amount today has increased, and the increase was another 20,000. Can I add this 20,000 of increase in recoverable amount to the carrying value of the asset in 2021? You will say earlier it was impaired by 20,000. Today, can I reverse it by the same amount? Answer is no. Let's see. I have a heading as reversal of impairment. Actual values compared with value if impairment not recognized earlier, first let us start with carrying value on 31st March 2019. On that day, I charged impairment and my carrying value became 80,000. Had the impairment not been recognized, it would have been 1 lakh. Right? But until 2021, there is no reversal. So depreciation up to 31st March 2021, 2 years from that date. If I was charging depreciation on 80,000 of 8,000 rupees, 2 years, I would have depreciated the asset by 16,000. If the impairment was not recognized earlier, I would have depreciated it by 10,000 every year. For 2 years, I would have recognized a depreciation of 20,000. Therefore, the carrying value on today's date, 31st March 2021, on the day on which there is a reversal, it is 64,000. If impairment loss was not recognized earlier, it was 80,000. If my reversal of impairment since you said that the recoverable amount is greater than carrying value by 20,000, if my reversal was 20,000, the entire value which was impaired earlier, then what would have happened? Then the carrying value of the asset after reversal would have been 84,000. The carrying value after its reversal would have been 84,000. But he is saying these values are wrong. You cannot reverse impairment loss by 20,000 because if you reverse it, then the carrying value after the reversal is greater than the carrying value if such impairment loss was not recognized earlier, which is 80,000. Therefore, how much can I reverse? My reversal should be restricted to only 16,000. What is 16,000? The difference between 64,000 and 80,000. So therefore, the revised carrying value after reversal can only be 80,000. That is the maximum or should be limited to the carrying value of the asset if such impairment loss was not recognized earlier. If such impairment loss was not recognized earlier. Have a look at the example which I have given. I'll hide myself so that it becomes a little more clear to you. Now you check. If the carrying value of the asset was 80,000 after charging 20,000 rupees of impairment, and if impairment was not recognized, the carrying value would have been 1 lakh, then the depreciation up to the date of reversal, 2 years, is 16,000 after impairment, 20,000 if impairment was not recognized. In such cases, my carrying value of the asset would have been 64,000 after impairment, 80,000 without impairment. If your recoverable amount exceeds carrying value by 20,000, which was exactly the same amount of impairment recognized earlier, you cannot increase the same 20,000 to the carrying value of the asset because such increase of 20,000 would have exceeded the carrying value of the asset of 84,000 after reversal. However, your value of carrying value of the asset, if such impairment loss was not recognized earlier, is only 80,000. So therefore, the recognition of impairment, reversal of impairment should be limited only to 16,000. Yes, guys. Apply it here. Reversal of impairment loss. Carrying value is equal. Reversal of impairment loss is lower of recoverable amount minus carrying value, which is 20,000. Or carrying value if the impairment loss was not recognized earlier, 80,000. Minus carrying value of the asset after the impairment was recognized, 64,000. That is 16,000. Which is lower? 20,000 is not considered to be lower. It is 16,000 which is considered to be lower. Therefore, reversal of impairment loss can only be up to 16,000. Yeah. This is the formula which I have written. Has nothing to do with the standard. This is my formula. Okay. But actually what the standard says is the reversal of impairment loss should be allocated for increasing the carrying value of the asset. Such increased carrying value of the asset should be limited to the carrying value of the asset if such impairment loss was not recognized earlier. This sentence is what is given as per the standard. Okay, the reversal of impairment loss should increase the carrying value of the asset. Such increased carrying value after the reversal should be limited to and should not exceed the carrying value if impairment was not recognized earlier. This formula I constructed out of that paragraph. Now I hope the reversal of impairment loss is pretty clear. Continue. I'll give you one more very important statement to add from here. If reversal of impairment is to a CGU, if the impairment or reversal of impairment is to a CGU, that means a group of assets, then such reversal should increase carrying value of each asset in the CGU in such a way that the increased carrying value of each asset after reversal should not exceed the carrying value of asset if impairment loss was not recognized earlier. If impairment was not recognized earlier, same logic, guys. There is no difference in the logic. It is the same logic even to the CGU, just that you are adding the word group of assets here. So whenever it is a group of assets which is being reversed for impairment, just like how you have impaired the group of assets, impairment loss was allocated to each asset in the proportion of their carrying value. Same way, even when there is a reversal of impairment, it should be allocated to each asset in the CGU in the proportion of their carrying value. However, in such a way that the increased carrying value of each asset after the reversal should not exceed the carrying value of the asset if impairment loss was not recognized earlier. Same way how you recognize impairment, even here reversal of impairment should be recognized. But a peculiar point comes up when you're talking about reversal of impairment to goodwill. Earlier, what did we say about impairment of goodwill? Goodwill should be first impaired. If there is an impairment loss to which to a group of asset or an individual asset to which goodwill is allocated, such impairment should be first allocated to the value of goodwill. But this is a significant difference from AS 28, because here he says under IND AS 36, reversal to goodwill is not permitted in IND AS 36. This is a significant difference, guys. It was earlier allowed in AS 28. Now, since IND AS 36 is applicable, such reversal of goodwill is not permitted even though your recoverable amount is greater than carrying value. It can only be increased to other assets. It cannot be increased to the extent of the value of goodwill out here. Clear? Now that we discussed about the concept of reversal of good impairment, what about recognition? Impairment should reduce the value of the asset, should be charged to P&L. Reversal of impairment should increase the carrying value of the asset, should be credited to P&L. I have some logics out there. I'll have to restrict certain logics out there. So we will discuss about that in the next session. So until now, what we have discussed so far today in this session is regarding impairment of goodwill, allocation of goodwill, and how do you identify the impairment on goodwill. Number two, similarly, we have seen impairment of corporate assets, and then we have come across reversal of impairment loss, a restriction in the value of reversal of impairment loss.